Basically, a workflow is a process of step-by-step procedure to execute some task or perform something in SailPoint. Okay, so it usually, in technical terms, it is also called as business process. Okay, but as a developer, we refer most of them as a workflows. Okay, for workflows to be configured, we go to the setup and business process. Okay, we see some out-of-the-box workflows already available in SailPoint, which will come with the. Yes.
Workflows are very critical, okay? So this is something that you cannot miss. So just follow and stop as soon as you have any doubt, because you won't follow. I mean, if you don't follow, right, if you think it's okay, you can ask later. It doesn't work like that, because this is very critical. Whatever is there right now, we'll be explaining couple of out-of-work workflows. Please ask any questions then and there.
Okay, so whatever we see it in this page, like a setup business process, these are already available out of the box workflows. Okay, so each workflow is of certain type. So basically, workflows are categorized based on types. So it can have some identity refresh workflow or identity update. We have different types of workflows. So lifecycle event workflow. So different types of workflows we have. But the main ideas is, main outline of a workflow is, it will start from a start step where we do have nothing to do it, but we'll tell say workflow to start from that step and end it at the end step. In between, we are going to perform certain actions on the workflow so that it will meet our business criteria, the requirement of the workflow, what we are going to supposed to do in the workflow. Okay. So I'll go through some basic provisioning workflow, which is LCM provisioning workflow. Please, miss. Sorry. Okay. So this is basically out-of-box workflow, LCM provisioning workflow. So when we do some operations, right, like requesting any access in SailPoint, updating a user's roles or anything through manage user access. If you observe this quick link. So this out-of-the-box quick link, it will use a workflow called LCM provisioning. For any changes you do on the user, like add an entitlement or remove an entitlement. So everything is built up as a plan in the backend. Everything is monitored by, everything is performed in this workflow. Okay. So I will show you each and every step and walk you through some major steps which you need to understand. Okay. So for a LCM provisioning workflow to work, the main concept of LCM provisioning is it will categorize it into 5 different steps. Okay, this will be common for any LCM workflow. Okay, so just focus on these steps which I'm talking about. Initialize is the first step, like where you, like if you select any user, okay, and you select some entitlements and you submit a form. Okay, once you submit it, so it will create an entity request, right, access request, and if there is any work item, it will send it for approval. Once the approval is, decision is taken, either approved or rejected, it will be provisioned to end system. If it is approved, it will it will add the entitlement. If it is rejected, it will end the workflow. Okay, so that was the outline, but what happens in the back end, it will be started in the initialize step. Initialize is basically selecting which entitlement we are going to select, or which user we are selecting, or do we have any provisioning forms. Okay, like do we need to complete give any additional information before we create an account to that application. So such kind of everything, gathering the different details and compiling a plan. Compiling the plan is building a plan, basically, and building a provisioning plan. Everything comes under this initialize steps. Okay, and the second step is approve. We have a step called approve and provision, but usually if we separate it out, first it will initialize the request and it will go for the approvals, as we see it in our SailPoint also, like in real time. It will go for the approval of the business owners, like it can be an entitlement owner or app owner, anyone. Okay, so once the approvals are done, okay, so if it is approved, it will go to the step called provision. And so I told you, right, like there are 5 major steps in the LCM provisioning. So initialize, it starts with approve second step, and third step is provision. Provision is once the decisions are approved, it will provision the request, whatever we are requesting to, either to be entitlement or a role, anything we are requesting in that manage user access quick link, it will provision in the end system. Okay, that is in provision step. And we have something called notify, where communications will be sent out to end users. Okay. For example, what we are doing in the e-card is, and after provisioning rule, we are sending an email whenever there is account creation or a modify, whatever the business requirement, but we are trying to send an email after the provisioning is done. Okay, that part of the requirement we made, we established, right? That is referred in the, in the notify step. Okay, basically it's a notification sent to different end users. Okay? And the last step, finalize. Okay, this is the fifth step basically. Okay, where if there are any post approval or post provisioning setup, like we do audit, right? After email is done, we will audit the results. It could be it is a success or failure, so we'll update the SailPoint audits. Okay, that is covered in the final step. This is just a major outline of a workflow, of LCM workflow. If you see any other workflow, LCM create and update or manage passwords, it will have same major steps. Like if you see initialize, it will have approve. Right now I can see it, but provision, notify, finalize. These are the major steps which will every LCM provisioning, LCM workflow will be there. Okay. So let's consider on this particular LCM provisioning workflow, and we'll show you like some major steps in debug. Okay. So in UI and front end, it will be called as a business process. In the back end, you will use it as a workflow. And these are the out of the workflow I'm trying for LCM provisioning workflow. Okay. So as I told you, right, we have different steps. It will start from start step and ends with the end step. So if you scroll a little down, we will have a start step where the workflow will be starting from there. Okay. So whenever you are troubleshooting anything, or if you want to create a workflow, you go to that business process, and I will walk you through how to create a workflow. But once I'm done with this outline of LCM provisioning, we'll go and create some business process. Okay. So it will start with, ideally it will start with a start step. Okay. And it will go to next step based on the transition conditions. Okay. Right now it do not have any condition, but directly transition to different next step basically. So if you see, it can, this is initialized, but this is immediately after the start step. So somehow we can believe that this is the next step. But whatever the name of the step we are mentioning in the transition, it will go there. Like it cannot be, it don't have to be immediate step. I can also mention it as some create ticket step in the transition. Okay, so you don't have to follow the order. The order is basically whatever we are transitioned, it will go to that step. So you should focus on the what is the transition. Okay, so if you see the next step, which is a initialize step, we have different arguments. Okay, basically in workflows terminology, if you are like, so before going to the arguments, so I'll tell you a concept of sub process. Okay. So we have business process and we have sub process. Basically, workflow and even sub processes are also called as workflows, but there will be a parent workflow for that workflow. Like it will be launched from some other workflow. Okay. So if you observe this one, there is something called in 419 or 420. You have something called identity request initialize. This is another workflow, but what we are trying to do, we are trying to launch this workflow from our major parent workflow is called LCM provisioning. Okay, but ultimately this is also a workflow object. Okay, so when we are trying to launch any workflow, we are going to send some inputs to that workflow, like what will be the certain values. For example, what will be a plan to that workflow. We should send the provisioning plan. So these are the arguments. These are the variables in the workflow. Okay, used as a variables. But when we are trying to launch it with some other workflow, we will tell us those are the arguments we are going to send it to that workflow. Okay, and we have something called returns. Okay, what does this workflow return to this whatever the step we are using it? So when we call this anti-request initialize workflow, it will return as the project if there is any updates to the project, or if there is a approval set, any policy violations, whatever it is supposed to return. I mean, it will return from that workflow. So we are mentioning, oh, these are the steps it will return. I mean, these are the variables it will return, and these are the variables we are going to send it for that workflow. Okay. If you observe on the top section, we have different variables for this particular workflow, LCM provisioning workflow. We'll use this different variables in different steps. We have something like we have something called inputs or outputs based on the whether this workflow needs this input or whether this workflow send out this variable as output. So that is a terminology where you usually refer. Okay. Okay. Any questions so far? Now, from this, if you open this workflow, you will see different things, but we'll just outline the main workflow. Okay, so whatever it returns, it will return and it will this workflow will capture those variables. But what happens in the next step, like in the next lines? So we have different transitions. Okay, how do SailPoint know what is the next step I need to go? So like there were 4 transitions, but the fourth one is, if you see, that is a straightforward. It will go to the create ticket, but does it go really create ticket directly? Not. So it will first go to the whatever the first transition it sees. It will go and calculate what is the condition. I need to if it satisfies only, then I need to go to this step. So you have a condition called when. If this script returns true, then only I need to go to this step called exit on manual work items. Okay. If this script returns false, it will go to the next transition, immediate transition, and calculate what are the condition inside that. And if it returns true, it will go to this workflow step. Okay. Similarly, it will calculate all the first thing it will calculate. Then it will go to the, let's say the first one it is satisfied true. So it will go to the exit on manual work items. But after completing this step, okay, if you see, where is this? This is a create step, but let me see the exit on that. Okay. So this is where we are supposed to go immediately when it satisfies the condition. And it will see, if you see, it will transition to end. So whatever the transition is, right, it will focus on that to go to the next step. So it is basically ending the workflow. Once it comes to this step called exit on manual work items, it will end the workflow. It will not go to the next transition in the, like it will not go to the next line once it goes to the line 422. Okay. So let's say we do not have anything true on these 3 variables, but let's say we are going to transition to create ticket. So what happens in the create ticket step? Okay. And if you observe in the line 427, it says you should execute this step only if this condition is satisfied. Okay. Basically, there is something called ticket management application. When it is not null only, I'm going to create a ticket. That's a reference. I mean, that's basically this condition. And similarly, whatever we have, right, we have the arguments here, we have the return variable, and we are going to launch a sub process called manage ticket. Again, we have a transition called pre-split approve, and based on certain conditions, it will transition to the next steps. Okay. Okay. This is the concept. Okay. So if you, I want to discuss a few terminologies here, few variables which will be useful whenever we are focusing on the LCM workflows. Okay. We have something called approval mode and approval scheme. Okay. So if you observe any these variables, right, in SailPoint, in this workflow, so you can see the description of a variable. Each variable has certain description. Once you are going through these workflows, right, you will understand what is the significance of each variable. For example, approval scheme, right? So if you read this, what does it say is, it can have a any value. For example, in this example, we have the owner as an initializer. That means whoever the owner of that particular object we are requesting. So when does this LCM provisioning workflow launch? Whenever you are using a manage user access and trying to request any entitlement. Just in our real-time scenario, we are requesting entitlement. So whoever the entitlement owner it is, that will be the value for the approval scheme variable. Okay, just think it as a variable key value pair. Okay, the key is basically approval scheme, and the value will be owner of the object. If you see the terminology also, the object owner gets the approval item. Okay, and also we can have a manager, we can have a security officer. So what are the possible values we can have it in this place of owner? Okay, so what happens when we replace that values? It is given in the description. So approval scheme, we have an to whom it should go, and how it should go is basically approval mode. Okay, if you see this variable called approval mode, how does it should go? So we have different options we have. I'll give a couple of examples in this. For example, serial and parallel. So let's say we initialize it as a parallel. Okay, what happens in that case? That is out of box. These are all out of box settings. So it will be initialized as parallel approval mode. What does it do? It will send the approvals based on the levels, different levels. Okay, let's say we set it approval scheme as owner, right? So to whom does it go first? It will go to the owner. Okay, owner of that object, object entitlement or a role owner. First, it will go to that. And if you want to, if there are more than one approval needed, we can have multiple approvals set up, and it will go it will send the approvals for all the owners at the same time. Okay, so let's say there are two reviewers to the one access request. Either of them can take the decision. Okay, either me or the other person. Let's say I'm the approver and Disha is also approval. Either me or Disha can take the approval decision based on the completion. Like when we both complete the decision, it will proceed further. Okay, if one of us reject the approval, it will get rejected. But in this case of serial approval mode, if let's say this is instead of parallel, it's a serial, it will go on based on the levels, different levels. Okay, once I approve the first level of approval, it will go to the second level, who is basically let's say Disha. So Disha need to approve the second level of approval. If she rejects that, it will come and it will reject the approval letter. Even though if I approve it, it will doesn't matter. Okay, but let's say in the first level only I rejected it, it will not go to the second level. Second level of approval, it will not go to the second level of, because the first level it was rejected, so it will not go to the next level. So it will terminate the workflow. So your whatever the request you made, right, it will say it is rejected. Okay, this is the major concept of approval mode and approval scheme. Any questions on this?
Shrikant,
I have a small. Shrikant, can you please explain a parallel mode? If I am using parallel mode,
okay,
if anyone reject that application, then what happens?
Okay, in parallel mode, anyone, let's say it goes to 3 or 4 approvers, any one of them take a decision as rejected,
Yes.
it will end the workflow.
Okay.
Okay, first one to reject, let's say first it goes to 4 members. First one approves it, second one approves it, and third one rejects it. It will get rejected.
Okay. So if anyone rejected, then it goes to the end state only.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? These are the two major variables. It will be useful when we are modifying the LCM provisioning in any organization, any enterprise. So make sure if you are changing the LCM provisioning, you should be careful and you should read the proper documentation and understand each variable significance. Okay, and if you go through the different variables, right, there are bunch of variables available in the LCM provisioning. So if you refer them, you will get more understanding on the different variables. Okay, now let's go back to the approval step. That's the step also. Okay. So we are at the pre-split approval. I think this is not a mandatory. Let's we go to the approval and provision step. Okay. So, as I told you, right, the outline of LCM provisioning. It is first it will initialize the request and create a plan, compile a plan. Second thing it will approve the decisions, and the third thing is approve vision. So basically these are two, approve and provision are merged into single step, where we will launch a sub process called approve and provision. Okay. We have a sub-process called approve and provision sub-process, right? We are sending these inputs. If you look at any inputs, approval mode, for example, we are telling it to refer the value of approval mode. So where does we have this approval mode? Okay. So whatever we are referring it as a workflow variable, we might update it or create it during the workflow. So you need to find where it started. So in this case, it was input is true for this workflow, and the first default value is parallel approval mode. It can update during the workflow also. We can change it in some time, I mean in between the workflow, but we are not doing in current example. Okay. So when you tell it as a reference, so it will use the whatever the value we have it, the first initialized value. So it is parallel in this example. Similarly, what are the value, for example, owner email template? What we need to do, we need to look at the value and refer the this variable. So whatever the initializer, or if we are updating during the workflow, it will send to this workflow called approve and provision sub process. Let's quickly go this workflow and see what's happening in that. Okay, so the basic idea of the workflow remains same, where we have different variables predefined, and we have start step to start the workflow and end step to end the workflow. In between, we have different steps for each different workflow. Okay, if you observe the variables which says input equal to true, right? For example, this source is input is true. Okay, but they are initializing to LCM. So this is if it says input equal to true, that is coming from a previous workflow where we send it as an argument. Okay, so we might have a source here. See, if you see source, we are sending a source. This could be a different source. For example, in this the approve and provisioning, we are initialize it to LCM. But we can, if we send a different value, it will override in the in this process. Okay. So whatever the initializer we have, it will take it. But if it does not, if it is not coming as an input, just to be safe, like they have initialized to some variable, some value. Okay. So let's see what is the main idea of approve and provision sub process. So it will start with the start step and go to the compile project. Okay. So what does it do in the compile project? What it is doing? That's getting some approval set. To whom it will needs to send. They are using some. So whenever we use this action equal to call, right? So what is it is? It is calling some out of the box workflow methods to perform some actions. Okay. So whenever you publish build split approval set, it will return something. Okay, the method it will return something, but you observe the result. Yeah, result variable. This whatever this step, right? In this step called what is this step? Build approval set. It will return you a approval set at the end of this execution of this particular step. It will send you a return of approval set. Okay. So to whom it needs to send, who will be the owner, all those information will be updated in the approval set based on this build split approval set method. Okay. So where does it go? Where is it going to? condition to approve. This is approve. Okay, it's immediate step. So approve. What happens in the approve step? Again, we have a sub-process called provisioning approval sub-process. Okay, so it will move on until we get a final solution. Like we have only once we get into this provisioning approval sub-process, right? Even it will have same basic idea. Start step and do some processing, calculate some variables, update the provisioning plan, and come back to this parent workflow, like approve and provision sub-process. And once this process is done, it will go to again its parent workflow, and it will go to the next workflow step. Okay, it might look too many steps, but it will be done in minutes, like in seconds. Okay. So what are we trying to do after the approval is done? We are trying to provision. So whatever the provisioning process we have waited for that application connector, if it is JDBC, it will directly provision the request. Okay, once a request is so if it will done in the sub process called anti request provision. Okay, so once it is done, they are telling to update the ticket post provisioning. So update ticket in the sense, let's say it will create some tickets in some target system, some third party systems, for example in the service now. Okay, it's after once we provision to the end system, we need to update the ticket telling that okay, there is a request to this user to update this entitlement. So we already updated from SailPoint. So we are going to update the ticket information through this workflow step sub process. Okay. Let's move on. We have done with the approvals, like approval and the provisioning in the end system. So what happens as of our LCM outline, once the approval is done, we'll usually need to send the notification. Okay, like sending email notifications and all. We did it in the our what we call after provisioning rule. We can configure that in the workflows also. Okay. But it would be different for each application, right? Some application may not require the notifications, or some might be needing. Okay, so it depends on the each application. That's the reason we will not generalize the sending an email template or auditing the certain request. Okay, if we need to send the email for every LCM provisioning request and audit the every LCM provisioning request, we can make it in the out of the box workflow changes. Okay. Okay, this is the outline of LCM provisioning. So I will show you also create a workflow. Any workflow if you want to create, walk it through how to create it. Set up business process. So if you observe, I will show you something. LCM provisioning. If you observe, there will be a type for each workflow. In this case, the type is LCM provisioning, but not in every case we'll have workflow name and the type will be same. For example, LCM create and if I take it as, so if you see, this is the type is called LCM identity. Okay. So whenever, for example, if you want to change an entitlement, if you observe or not, I don't know. If you are trying to make any changes to any entitlement, for example, if you want to make a requestable as a non-requestable entitlement, if I'm selecting this and saving it, if you see, there will be something called a workflow will be launched. If you see, a workflow to update the entitlement named was successfully launched. What I did just now, just updated some entitlement as a non-requestable, requestable to non-requestable. Okay, that means a workflow is already launched. These are the out-of-box workflows we have. Based on the different types, it will be launched. Example, if we want to change any password or update any capabilities or anything, we are making any changes to the entry, it will say a workflow is launched to update the values. That means we have some workflow configured as the out-of-box product to launch the certain workflow and do some processing in the backend. Okay. Similarly, we have lifecycle event workflows. So I don't remember if it was this topic was covered. So whenever a event is business condition is satisfied, we are going to launch certain workflow. That is again one type of workflow. Okay, each type will have some mandatory variables. We know as what is a variable, right? For each workflow, we need some inputs or some variables. So for each type of the workflow, we are going to have some mandatory. So let me start creating some new business process. So if you see this page, we have different options where we have a new option to create a business process. So let's take, I'll try to create, update or some. So what are the business records? Let's say local application. Just an random example. I'm taking some business process and creating that. So it will ask for a type. So if you observe this one, it will tell you based on the type, your variables should be defined and how does it should look like. Okay. In this example, I can take any type. LCM provisioning, you know what's LCM provisioning, right? So what is the type of LCM provisioning workflow? I mean, what it means, we are telling that this is the LCM provisioning workflow. So whatever the major fields we need, like approve, provision step or initialize, whatever the process we are doing in the LCM provisioning, right? We need to focus on that and we should send the variables as accordingly and launch the sub process if we need anything. Okay, we are telling that. Let's take an as for example anti-update. That means there is a workflow called LCM create and update, right? So when we saw that, I think it was anti-update only, that type of the workflow. Link that. Okay, I can add it different variables. Right now I don't have it empty, but I can create some variables. For example, I can create a variable called trace. So I know what is a trace for a workflow. I will tell if it is an input or not, but I will give some value if it is it should have some default value. So I'm just setting it as an initial string. Okay, so the value will be. What does it do? The trace is something to tracing the workflow from start step to end step. So it will print too many logs telling that what happens in the first step, does it initialize, what variables it is initializing, how does it calculate the transitions. So everything will be traced into your logs when you set this value is true. So that will be useful when you are trying to understand the workflow, what happens for each step or each performance, where does it go. So everything, if you want to monitor, this is a variable where you can use it. Okay, and I can add more variables. Let's say I add something called plan. So even this is a variable, but let's say this is an input to this workflow. I'm not, I cannot create it as some value, right? But I can write some rule to create a plan, return a plan. But ideally for any workflow, we are launching it from some QuickLink or some other UI tools, right? Like updating the entities or updating the entitlements. So basically it will be an input to the workflow. I added this variable, and there can be a similarly for approval LCM provisioning we have approval mode, right? For INT update also we'll have some other mandatory variables. You can look at the workflow and add new variables. Okay, that's how you create a variables. So we have something called process designer where we can look at the transitions, like where does it go from each steps. Okay, on the left side if you see a option called add a step, and we have something called adding each steps. Okay, so we have start and end step, right? So end step is called stop here. So I'm adding a start step, I'm adding a stop step. These are two steps where your workflow is starting and ending. So I've added two steps. So there are some transition, I mean steps, different steps we use. Those are called as generic steps. So I create one step. Let's say I want to create one more step. I created one more. I drag it here. Okay. Let's say these are two transition I want. But I want to, instead of generic steps, I have two workflow steps which is same name. So I can rename it by using edit step. So if I use that edit, I can rename it as suppose, for example, calculate something, whatever your whatever it makes sense to your business requirement. So this is my calculate application workflow step. And there is one more step called, for example, process or something. It can be. So this is my transition. But how do I tell where does it go? How does it should go? I should add a transition for each step. How do I add it? So from start step, I need to go to process request, or end step, where should I go? I should tell it. So I will go and start the transition. Okay. If I click start transition, I can end it on this step and end it on the end step. So I usually prefer to the immediate step. I click on right step and end transition. So from startup, it will always go to the calculate application. So whatever the process or whatever the business logic I want to add it, so I'm going to add it here. Like I'll do the edit step and calculate what are the requirement I need to do. For example, in the calculate application, I'm writing some logic so that I will get the name of the application. Okay. So I will do some calculations. For example, I'm doing some calculations. I'm writing a string. Okay. String of the application. I will do this. I will see. So what did I got? I got the name of the application in this workflow step. So what I'm doing now, I'm going to transition to next step based on certain criteria. I will add the condition, but let me transition. Add a step condition. Okay. So when does it needs to go? Okay. I need to tell. If you see, if there is a rule or any reference we want to use, we can select this option. Or if you want to write any script, we can write a editor. Okay, and editor. So for example, I don't have a script to have the event condition, but we can what we can mention here is on when it says on what basis you should transition to the next step. So we'll add the condition like when condition. We saw that in the LCM provisioning workflow, right? We can add that condition and tell to transition to the next step based on that condition. Okay. If not, it will go to the end step. Like we can make that conditions. So again, we'll start transition and edit here. Okay, this is the basic outline of creating a workflow. You have to save it. It will out in your debug. Okay. If you observe different variables, we have two variables. We created it. We have start step and transition to calculate application. If you observe, the immediate step is stop step after start, but it will not go to stop, right? As we discussed, it will go to a transition step, which is called calculate application. It will go there and it will calculate your application name. And when we have the condition step, right? When condition basically, so it will go to the it will be there in the your step condition only. When I mean transition condition only. When does it go to? It will be in this line. Okay. This is how you create a workflow. Else. Okay. And you want to continue with the QuickLinks this or?
Yeah, you just explained the LCM provisioning workflow, right? Can you just explain them one minute? Entitlement update or role update?
Yeah, sure. So as I just did, right, like I updated some entitlement, I launched some workflow, right? So we need to understand what's happening in the backend also, right? So if you see the setup task and task results, it will tell you the what workflow or what step we are at. Okay. Is that all? So if you see, it says update account group, your name of the entire application or entitlement name. Currently it is in the end step. Current workflow step is end. So that means your workflow is completed. But we need to know what is that workflow, what happened in the backend also, right? So let's quickly go to that workflow and see what happened in the entitlement. So this is the workflow. Usually it will be launched whenever we are updating anything in the entitlement catalog. Okay, either it could be owner or it could be a description or the or e-certifiable, any variable related to entitlement. This will be launched. Okay, so the basic idea remains same for any workflow. It will again go to the start step. Basically, it will calculate each variable. It does not have any inputs or any initializers. If you observe. What happens in this case? So when you declare in Java, you declare as a null variables, right? Like a null strings or a null list. Okay. So this is something similar, but we will use this summary name or these variables later part of the workflow. Okay. Just to use them and refer it in the different steps, we declare them as a variable. Okay. So that will be available in any workflow step. Okay. So it starts with the start step. It will go to the examine plan. So what happened in this examine plan? If you see, that's a immediate step. Okay. Derive a single string where we can use the as a name of the entitlement passwords and login. So whatever the entitlement, right? Whatever the entitlement, the display name of the entitlement will get it. It's a summary name. It's a get summary. So we have any methods here. We don't have anything. I think it is available in the workflow line. So it will go to the compile project. So we have again. Is Disha quick question? How do we see these methods like in the workflow variable or jar
It will be in the API.
API?
These are actions.
I'm sorry.
I'll go see it in the work library. Workflow library. So it's not mentioned, right? Libraries are not mentioned. So it will be, if it is not, rule libraries are not mentioned, so it will be there in the API.
There is no library.
No, it will just be before the start step. Yeah, variable and rule library references not there, so it will be in the APIs. Scroll up. Go to the line 3.
What was it?
So it will be there in the APIs. It won't be there in the.
If you have ever used this decompiler, Java decompiler, so in SailPoint, if you observe the webiner folder, right, we have different libraries used in SailPoint. Okay, like these are the different jar files. So you know the concept of jar files, right? So different class files are compiled compressed into a jar file. Okay, so we have bunch of jar files available in SailPoint. Okay. So based on this available different jar files and the different methods written in these class files, we are going to use those out of the box methods in the workflow. This is the out of box workflow. So we already defined those method names and the logic inside that. Yeah, if we go to the proper get the compiler and follow the directions, we'll get the what happens in the method. Okay. What are we doing it here? Okay. And once we have the project, we are going to compile it. Okay. Once we have the summary name, we are going to compile the project. How are we going to do? We are going to have a plan. Okay. Plan in the sense, if you see, that's your plan. So if you see, this is the input to this workflow. Okay. How do we get it? Based on the when we update in the QuickLink, right, in the UI. So we updated it here. So it will launch a workflow and it will send the plan also. When we send the plan from, I mean, when we did the action in the UI, what will be the plan usually contains, but you will have the account request and attribute request. Okay. So you, in this example, it will be your entitlement and you are going to update its entitlement value, maybe a requestable or whatever the attribute request we are going to do it. Okay. That's your basic plan looks like. So it is going to compile that plan. Okay. In this step. Okay, with the different arguments available. Okay. And it will go to this approval process. So if we have a owner as the approver, I mean not owner, if we have the entitlement owner, so what happens is it will define if there is an entitlement owner or not. If it does not have it, it will completely updating the entitlement. If it does have the owner, it will usually go to the owner as per the out of box settings. So how do we know if it is owner or if it is null approval? We don't need any approval kind of thing. So it is saying refer the approver variable. Whenever we get this value, it should go to the start approval process. Okay. So we need to see what is the variable for approval. Okay. If you see this, what happens here? Initializer is some value. So system.get property of IQ.force approval. So now we get this value. Okay. Need entity to approve entitlement value. This is not set when launched from the UI, but you may want to hard code to initializer. Okay. So approver can be any of the identities as of it says. We can name it as some SP admin or any other identity, so that it will be sent for the work approval. Approval. Okay. So you can go to your work item. Owner can go to the work items and take the action. So we have the approver. Okay. This thing. Okay. This one. So let's say we have the some value and it will go to the approval process. What happens in the start approval process? It will display your message. I mean, these are the different arguments we are sending in. And we are doing some action, right? This is the workflow method again. So whatever if we follow the decompiler, we'll get to know what's happening in that method. It will transition to build approval summary. Again, it refer to this plan and send it to this build group change summary method. It will update that. And what does it returns? It will return you some variable, some changes, some variable call changes. Okay. Okay. We have a approval transition. So in this transition, what are we trying to do? We have a approval form. Okay, approval form in the sense when approver is trying to take any action, it will have a form kind of thing. You can look at the variables and take the action. Okay. So we have some argument called work item description. Okay. Usually when you see the work items in this page, we have a description, right? So this is a description. What it is doing. So it is telling to return something called approve and the action. The action can be a deletion or creation based on our request. Approve, creation of entitlement, and what are the summary name? We are the variable. The summary could be a variable name. Okay. Okay. If you see, this is a variable name, but we might be calculating it some other place. Okay. If you see this step called get summary name, the result variable of this step is summary name. So in this step we are getting the summary name, but we are using it in some other workflow step. Okay. In this step we are using the summary name directly. Okay. And if you observe the this step 118, line 118, so it is sending something. What does it? I mean, what is the significance of this send? Okay. So whenever we are using this form, right? We are having we are updating some values in the form or calculating some values, but it should be useful for the further processing. Then we are going to send it. Okay, from this step. So similar, we have summary name and the changes. Okay. Okay, it will transition when it is not approved. Okay, what happens in this step? Like approval, if approver decides to reject it. Let's say reject the work item. So if it is not approved, what does it mean? It should go to end step. Okay, but if it is approved, then it will be your false condition. So when it is false, it will not go to the transition. Can you hear me?
Yes, Srikanth.
Okay. Got my internet. I lost my internet. Okay. So what are we doing in this next step? Start provisioning process. Okay. Yeah. If you go through this logic, what are we doing majorly is workflow and save. When your plan is not null, we are going to create a plan. Okay. What are we going to create a plan is? Target integration is IIQ. Okay, that will be a lengthy topic where if we have to discuss the target integration in the provisioning plan, maybe it will be discussed in the advanced sessions. But as of now, just think it as what is your where are we going to update the current change. Okay, so in this example where we are updating the entitlement, right, we are doing it only on the IIQ database basically. Okay, that means we should update, if we update the IIQ database table telling that okay, this is the change in the entitlement which user is trying to do, and go and update the entitlement table, that particular table with that information. So that is what we are setting up here. Okay, I mean that is what we are calculating it and telling other plans equal to true. That means if it does not, if it has more than IIQ, we are going to tell that there are more than just updating the IIQ table. So we are going to calculate the other, whatever the other plans it is. Okay. Okay. That will be a manual provisioning thing. What do you have then? We have a transition to provision. So whatever the changes we have, it will have some. So we have this call, right? It will call this method called provision group project method. Again, it will calculate based on the arguments we are sending it. Okay? We are sending a project and not of foreground portion. So if we get the whatever the value we have it in the variable foreground portion, basically not of, we are sending that, not of that value to be backgrounded. We'll go to provisioning errors. If there are any errors, we are going to return it. Okay. As of now, they are not doing anything. Just for it's an out-of-box workflow, right? So in case of client requirements or business requirement, if we have to do some additional checks or display some provisioning errors, we are going to update it here. So first thing you need to focus is what is the business requirement, which workflow we are going to launch it or use it, what is the type of it, and what is the main idea behind that workflow. Okay, like what would be the major idea in this entitlement update workflow? What are we trying to do? We are updating our entitlement to UI, expecting it should reflect immediately, right? So even this in the background also we need to think as a same perspective. We'll start with a start step and do some calculations. In the calculation, in the sense, what are we doing? What we are calculating, what will be the display name of the approval work item, who will be the approver. Okay, what happens if there are more than one plan, like more than change to the IIQ database. Okay, and also we have what happens if there are any provisioning errors during the updating the workflow, where should I display it, some kind of these kind of steps we have some outline. Okay, similarly we'll have some other custom workflows. This is an entitlement update, but we'll have custom workflows. We can create our own workflows based on the requirement. So if you see, there is a option, there is a concept called QuickLinks. I think that Disha will walk you through that. Through that also we can launch a quick workflow. If we click on something, it should usually launch a workflow. For example, we click on manage user access, right? Once we click on that, it is launching the LCM provisioning workflow, right? As we discussed. Similarly, if we click on something else, it should launch a workflow. Okay, that's the concept of quick link and workflows. Any questions so far on this entitlement update?
Is there somewhere we can refer all these variables
like any document?
And there is no particular document which will tell you these are the out-of-box variables or something like that. But ideally, what you do is you will go to the out-of-box workflows like LCA provisioning or identity update workflow, identity event, or any workflows, and look at the variables which are more commonly used. If you want to declare any variable, for example, in e-card, right? You can declare a variable called e-card or something which could be a customized one, not generally used in SailPoint. Like we cannot use the identity or we cannot use the application as your variable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think so. Sure. I'll take over.
Okay. I have a few questions based on your understanding. I want them to be answered. Shrikant did explain about the concept of sub-process, right?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you think we need a sub-process? Okay. I mean, as per your understanding, what is a sub-process and why do we need it? Okay. That you're not clear of the question.
Are you referring to everyone or?
Yes, everyone. I mean, not by you, Achan.
Yeah. I get it. I get it.
So it is like we can reuse it in just like we are calling a function, so we can reuse that same workflow in many places.
Okay.
We can refer to that workflow.
Okay.
Yeah, so that we can optimize the code.
So it is basically, if you remember the concept of modularity in Java, right? I know that's because of it.
Yes, Disha.
And also, how does SailPoint know? Like whenever I click on this quick link, right, manage user access, how should SailPoint know? It should only launch the NCM provisioning, but not other workflow. There should be somewhere, right? We should tell SailPoint that okay, when user clicks on this manage user access, launch a workflow called LCM provisioning. We can also launch any other workflow. Okay, but SailPoint should also know some basic. Should also have the idea of what should we launch it. So if you see, there is a global setting option.
No,
In the
they
device.
are aware of it. Wait, don't explain. Ask them for the question.
Oh, you
Yesterday it was
already.
explained.
Oh, it was already explained.
Yeah, you guys can answer that. Why? How do you know that if it is?
We can see in the global settings.
Global settings.
Yeah, go and tell the
Identity
check that,
card.
please. With
Uh,
respect to LCM provisioning workflows, there was a specific place, and for others,
yes.
there were specific places. So he's asking for
Manage user access.
In
Any idea with other?
so is it regarding the entitlement update or
User
Yeah.
he
manage user
specifically
access.
asked manage user access, right?
okay?
Quick link manage user access.
So in miscellaneous, there is an option for entitlement update. So
That is
this
for entitlement update, but how about
But I want it for manage user access. Your requirement is to create some accounts or onboard any application. So usually you test the provisioning part. You go to the manage user access and get the errors. Okay. So let's say if it is not coming to your application provisioning rules, the first thing you do is you'll trace the LCM provisioning. Not everyone will use the out-of-box workflow. They will have their own workflows. Okay. They'll just use the LCM provisioning like a template as a template and develop their own LCM provisioning workflow and name it as a different name. Okay. So you cannot blindly go to LCM provisioning workflow and trace the error. Instead, you can go to this LCM manager, lifecycle manager, and see what is the workflow name captured or updated in the request access. So if it says some SVB space LCM provisioning, I would go to the SVB LCM provisioning workflow and start understanding that workflow to trace the issue. Get it?
what could be the reason why we will not be using the out-of-box workflow and keep a replica of it and keep making changes?
Disha, can you repeat the question?
Shrikant said we won't be using the won't be using the out-of-box workflow. Rather, we'll be using it. We'll keep a copy of it and make the changes on top of the out-of-box workflow, right?
Yeah.
Why
So
do you
that
think this?
for the original process, which is like in the SailPoint, won't be. It's like a backup just in case we made any mistake.
Any other answers?
Okay, it doesn't. Okay, fine. If that is the case, also fine. We can still get it from our version, right? Let's say anyway, I will have my base version always in my jars, right?
Yeah.
Or I can have a duplicate. I can download it from SailPoint and again import the same file so that it will get replaced. Why do you think I need to have it?
That's okay. It's your perspective. But any other answers, like a team, like Shravan, Vidyadhar, Mahati?
If you are doing like that, it overrides the file, right? If it overrides, we are unable to fetch the whatever the previous operations we perform. So there also.
That's what she's also saying, right? We'll have a copy and so that we don't have to override the existing file. But do we have any other perspective or any other answers?
Maybe it can affect other quick links.
Okay.
If we make changes to that LCM provision.
So having a copy, is it like we are going to change the name as well and change?
Yes.
We'll have whatever there is LCM provisioning workflow. Whatever we keep it will be something like custom workflow based on the client name. We'll probably have a client short name and then follow the LCM provisioning workflow. In future, if there is bound for any changes, right? Tomorrow we might have it. It's not like so just because we installed 8.2 may not be there. We'll always be forever in 8.2, right? On periodic basis, we'll have to upgrade the versions of SailPoint also, correct?
Yeah.
In that scenario, don't you think it if you keep making on top of out-of-box changes, don't you think it will get replaced when you import the new files?
Yes.
Initially, when SailPoint was designed, don't you think it would have been simple enough? This LCM provisioning workflow would have been much in a simpler format, right?
Yeah.
So whatever customizations that you have done today will get replaced during the next process of upgrade or any further changes from SailPoint.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, to not lose those changes and to keep it and up to date, we will have to make sure. So we can know the difference between current process and new process, and we can adapt accordingly to the new process.
Yeah, I get it.
If you could have some other questions.
Yes, Disha.
These were the files which were shared to you guys. Right? Can you just quickly open them and import it? 5 objects. One is dynamic scope and object config, system configurations, workflow, and a quick link. There are 5 objects. I want all of you to go to global settings and import it. Go to global settings, do an import option, and select file one by one. If anyone is not able to do, just let me know.
Done, Tisha.
Okay, all of you have done it.
Yes, Disha.
Yeah, I assume everyone has done it.
Yes, Disha.
So first and foremost, okay, you are aware of this manage user access, right? So this is nothing but one of the type of quick link. When you go to everyone log out and again try to log in. Otherwise your changes won't be reflected. First do a log off and then log in again. Okay. So whatever you have it here, right? Under this, some have a quick access here, and otherwise everyone, all the quick links are by default coming in this order. Okay. So under your manage user access, you can see under manage access, you can see manage user access, right? And all these are different type of quick links. So every time you click on a quick link, it takes you into this form, right? What is the step here that is involved is predefined by a workflow. Every quick link, whatever you see in SailPoint, will always have a backup attached to a workflow. The object, whatever you see, right, it will be under quick link object type. So it will be under request access. This is clear. So all this a quick link, manage user access quick link, by default it is mentioned that it goes to the LCM provisioning workflow, right? As per that configuration, whatever is there in Lifecycle Manager, it will tell you manage user access or account, manage accounts. All these are tagged to LCM provisioning workflow, right? So every time you make a request here, it will take to the LCM provisioning workflow. So, or if a quick link has to exist, it has to have a workflow connected to it. And who can view this quick link? By default, you can make everyone see the quick link, right? But there could be some quick links where you want to restrict only to specific group of people. So in that scenario, if you want to do a restriction, it will always be quick links will be always tagged to So here there'll be options, okay? You can specify who should have access to these quick links. This is called quick link options. At the back end, it will be as quick link option, but at the front end, it will show you as quick link populations. So we have these populations, okay? These are predefined ones, self-service, manager, and everyone. Self-service means everyone can access it. Manager means users with only manager status. If they have any report is under them, only then in that scenario, he'll have access to the quick link. All the quick link will have same options, okay? So you can go here. You can tell what is this user associated with. If you want to restrict his parameters based on the configurations, you can do it. What are the list of quick links this self-service population will have is here. If it is checked as all these, right? That means edit identity, manage accounts, manage passwords, request access, track request, view identity. These are the quick links. It will do as self-service. User can generate it for himself. And these are the configurations. So you can see if you want to include a certain set of identities or you want to exclude, all these configurations are here. Like that, whatever quick link we are going to show you today is based on a help desk. Okay, here users who have under help desk will be given this quick link access only if he has a capability called help desk. Yesterday I showed you under identity capabilities, right? User rights, there were a list of things which I selected auditor and I showed you how his access changes, right? Extra view, he can get it apart from the default view. Like that, there is a capability called help desk. If user has that capability help desk, only then whatever is marked in this quick links, he'll be able to access. Okay, now as a part of our custom quick link, we have a quick link called update identity. What it basically does it updates certain parameters like last name and termination date. And if you see any new object config which is sent across to you guys, right? We have given you termination date. That's a new extra column which is added to the identity table, wherein you can update the termination date of the identity. Okay, so as per this quick link, right? The workflow name is update identity, and who has access to this? Only to the help desk team. Okay. Anybody who doesn't have help desk, SP admin by default, he'll have access to all the quick links, right? So apart from SP admin and help desk team, nobody else will have access to this quick link. So when you click on this, you can see, right? If you before you imported, right, you would have just seen the manage user access and manage identity. That is because as per your system configurations, right?
Yes, Disha.
This is your system configuration. If you see here, there is quick link categories. Here it would have told you task, access, and manage. This was the default one. Okay. Now we have created a new quick link category called manage update identity. Under manage update identity is where I have the underlying quick link assigned. And what is the order? If you see in the display, it will tell you, right? My task, manage access, manage identity, and update identity. It is in the fourth place. If I want to change this ordering, right? This is what is the ordering which specifies that. Okay, these are the out of box ones. After this, we have added the custom one. So until you add this particular category doesn't come. Okay.
Okay.
So here we specify under which category it should come, right? Whatever that new category name it will be as update identity. And what is the action? It should be a workflow. So that means there should be a workflow name which is tagged to this so that it can kick off. Okay, message key is the one which highlights it on the front end. Whatever value you see, right, that is based on this message key. You can update it, but right now for testing, for just showing that we've just given it as update identity. You can rename it and see how the changes reflect. Okay, so backend, I told you this is the workflow name, right? So this is the workflow which should get called when I click on the quick link. Okay, here again, this is like your regular quick link options. Here, what is the input? It's in your control. Okay, these custom quick links are all in your control based on your business. Whatever you need to do, you have to keep enhancing it. You, as soon as your requirement is given, you won't know what is the variables you have to initialize and keep everything. Okay, launcher is the one, like whoever is the current, anybody can launch, right? If you want information about that, this is the only input which will be provided to you. Otherwise, based on whatever is your business, you're trying to do a custom quick link, all this will be getting called. I mean, it's like a step-by-step process where you can keep enhancing it. But you should have a proper design into like what is the purpose, how am I going to do it. Right now in our objective, right, we want to give a option to the help desk team. When they click on the quick link, we want to give them a form wherein he can select an identity, select some parameters in the form. When he submits that request, it should go, whatever input is given in the form, right, it should go at the back end and update the identity object. That is a simple business which is given based on which the quick link and workflow are designed. Okay, this is, if you see help desk, right, if it is not very common in India, at least it's pretty common outside India, right? There are chances that they can change the last name, correct? Whatever is coming from HR, or sometimes they want to manage these things into within SailPoint. In that scenario, they want to come and update the last name. Sometimes termination date, like I'll tell you, the termination date you can consider it as for contractors. Okay, this is specifically for contractors. Whenever he joined, right, by default, you can set his termination date at the end of 3 months. If you want to extend it after the 3 months also, help desk should be given an option to come here to the quick link and update the termination date. These are the kind of businesses which you might get it. So here we have the form. So if you see, who should the form be populated? It will be populated to the launcher. Whoever is launching the quick link, he will only get the form. What is the title of the form? It is update identity. If you want to change it, you can change it and do it for your testing purpose. And then what is in this section you have fields, right? These are the fields. In the first, you need to give a drop down to the team who is selecting for whom this identity is going to make changes that will be made. So in that you are saying the type. What type of object are you trying to give it in the drop down is identity. So when you give it all these default objects, right? Whatever you see in the object browser you see, right? All these objects are by default you can give it. Type, if you give, right, application, you will get the application type, you will get the list of applications, whatever is there in the system. Like that, right now, whatever for our business, we are doing a type equal to identity, and it is mandatory, right? If he doesn't select an identity, for whom will you update? So it has to be made as mandatory, right? You're giving a name, you're giving a display name. Display name is what will be shown in the UI. This value won't be shown, but rather this value will be shown in the UI when a form is presented to the launcher. And then we have 2 more columns. One is string and the other one is date. String is not mandatory, but this is mandatory. If you see required, right, only we have required attribute on identity object and termination date, but not on the last name. And after when you're trying to, after he is entered, you give an option to either submit and cancel. When he submits is when it should go to the updating the identity. If he cancels it, it should not go, right? So these are the buttons which is given to him. Options of button. And when he submits, that is when it has to go and update the identity, right? So there is 2 transitions. When he cancels it, it has to end the workflow, right? You cannot update it after when he cancels this form, right? So when he's cancelled, it will come, it won't be approved, it will come as approved equal to null, approved equal to false. So in this scenario, it will go to end. Otherwise, it goes to check for identity, and wherein you are updating the identity object here. Is this clear?
Yes, Disha.
Yes, Disha.
Yes, Disha.
So as a part of form, right, if you see there is this termination date, right? For here, we don't have any validations, right? Sometimes, like when a form is presented, you might be given a date format or phone number or email for a value provider for an email, right? So basically, always he can give any random email, right? But for email, you need to have some proper validations, correct? It should have at the rate, it should have a domain name and dot. It should not have the special characters which you usually email doesn't permit you. All these will be the validations which is done, right? Phone number means he has to give a country code and give a number. It cannot exceed more than 100 digits. I mean, it cannot exceed more than 10 digits in the phone number value, right? Apart from the country code. So all these are validations. If you want to do, it will be, you can write this validation script. Okay, so here in this perspective, what the design is, whatever termination date you are trying to set, right? It cannot be, it should always be after today. You cannot set previous termination, previous dates, which is already passed as the termination date. Okay.
Okay.
So here, when you click on this quick link, I told you a form will be given, right? Since you have given it as type equal to identity, you will get this drop down identity details, whatever is there in current instance, it will give you. You see, right? Since it is made as mandatory, these two are mandatory. It will not let me submit it. Termination date I selected as 30th of July, right?
Yes, Disha.
Any questions? Every time you launch a workflow, right, there'll be a task result you can capture. You can see the stages at which you are. As soon as you track it, right, it will give you a work item. It will be a workflow case which will be open. You see here. Until as far as I keep this open, it will be there. So let's say I closed it. It will still be open. Any pending things, right? Anything that is being processed needs to get processed, right? It will always have a workflow case tagged to the backend. Anytime a work item like a lifecycle events or your LCM provisioning workflows or custom QuickLinks, right? Until they're closed, right? There'll be an object here. If it is closed and if it is completed, it'll go to the archive. Okay, if you see until it, since I closed it, you won't find it. Otherwise, whatever is your task result name, right, based on the same task result name, you'll have a workflow case. I'm just telling you this is all for your debugging purpose. Any questions? So any questions here? So yesterday we did tell you about the lifecycle events, right? So I'm just showing you a sample joiner event. I want this joiner to trigger only for my contractor users. Any users who is new and he has a source from HR contractors, right? Only in that scenario, I want this workflow to get triggered. Otherwise, I want other users to go through the role provisioning based on the birthright rules. So here, in this scenario, I want to set termination date as 90 days from the day he joins, from the day he comes into the system, right? 90 days from there, I want his termination date to be set. So you see here, these are the basic inputs. Okay, any information, I'll be doing it based on this. I'm getting the current instance. I am adding 90 days to the current time, and that is what I'm setting as termination date. Okay, here I have, in case of your quick link, right, you would be, since you have the drop down selected as identity, you will be getting the ID. But here, for my work, lifecycle event workflows, right, I'll be getting the identity name. So I'll get the identity object, I'll update the termination date, and that is what my joiner will do. Like this, if you have any provisioning to happen from for contractors alone, you want to do a different type of provisioning, then you can add the provisioning plan and create a plan, provision it, and end the workflow. So first, a simple scenario, I've given this. I'll go ahead and add a new row of data in HR system. So updated this information, I'll do an account aggregation. Selected my HR contractors. I'm doing a single refresh, single refresh so that only this user can get the account and can get the joiners triggered. You see, right? This joiner is triggered and it's in the end process. If you see, the termination date is set to 14th of October. This is the user who you can probably see as soon as the account is aggregated, you'll only see this information. You won't be able to see the termination date because you don't have the mapping for termination date. But right now, from joiner process only, I'm updating it. This is a simple scenario and you can understand the lifecycle process. Okay, it can get complicated as well. Any questions here? Or you want to go check on the lifecycle event again?
Tisha, here business process name, whatever the name we take, custom lifecycle event joiner. It is created from the business process, right?
Yes, I have a different workflow. I'm not using the out of box. Yes. This one I created today.
Okay.
One quick thing is, I think you were exposed to system configurations, right? So whatever configuration that you make it from the global settings, right? All that workflows, whichever is responsible for triggering all the configurations at the backend, whatever is done, right? It will have it attached here. Any email configurations, everything, whatever is there by default, everything will be have a placeholder here. We're telling what is the port, what is the details, right? What type of it is it, request to file or say redirection to a specific email or whatever configurations, whatever is done in SailPoint, right? Everything will have a placeholder in system configurations. And these basically will have the placeholder for UI configurations, whatever you see, right? In Identity Warehouse, you have these columns to be displayed, right? First name, last name, yeah, all this username. Like this, there will be a placeholder within UI config. UI config will be responsible for showing the display. Inside your certifications, you have view, right? For manager, will have a different view. For account level certification, you'll have a different view, and for entitlement owner certification or an entitlement level, you'll have a different view, right? So any of these configurations, everything will have a placeholder within this UI config. Yeah.
In system configuration, yes.
Sorry?
In
System configurations will have the default settings configurations, whatever you have it in SailPoint. Everything will be placed in system configuration. The view, whatever you see on any page, right? This application page or any pages, whatever you see, all these, right? Host type, these details, anything which is with respect to this display, you will have it in the UI config. Okay, if you want the termination date or any additional articles, right now you have location, department and all, right? If it is searchable attribute, you can add it as a comma separated value here. Identity view, is the one which is there in Identity Warehouse. And just make a note of these things where you should look for, what should you look for. Here either, if you see in this identity, right, it works for any combination, right? Let's say this is a display name, right? Based on display name, first name, last name, and display name. These are the configurations which I can search for it. It's giving me result based on these, right? So if you see here, I can search it by ID, name, or display name. And that for application or link attributes, what is it I can search it for? These are the configurations at the backend.